There we go. I got it, JB. All right.
That's spicy.
Man,
So I was figuring I need an excuse to hang out with y'all, and so I figured Holy Smokes could be a once in a month kind of just hang out, cigar, drink, chill time. So
Well,
that's what Holy Smokes is.
okay.
And so I was like, go ahead.
JB was telling me you guys did something on Driscoll.
I did a video on Driscoll a few days ago, just kind of a big picture kind of thing.
You know, I was at that church on the left, right?
Yep.
What you
I thought about you when
Oh.
I thought about all the good people that were like, no more of this and left, and so I had y'all in the back of my mind as I was talking in that video.
What you say? I didn't watch the video.
Oh, basically, I looked at it the whole, and so everyone, I'll do a quick one. Welcome to Holy Smokes. This is Stu. This is Brad. I'm Nick. Hi. This is just a thing we hang out and do. We're just jumping right into this because that's just what we do. We don't play around. Basically, I made 3 points of kind of failures of evangelicalism.
Uh huh.
So kind of one is capitulation of celebrity culture and celebrity, all that sort of stuff, and kind of corporatism and all that sort of stuff. The other one was a failure of certain views of women, the kind of all those sorts of stuff. And then the third one, I'm trying to remember, I think it was, I don't remember what the third one was. I spent most of my time on the first two. But just kind of, instead of being like destructive, like, burn all this stuff down, it's like, okay, we need to reflect and repent and think more about all this stuff that kind of gave rise to all of this. And kind of, how do we reconstruct or build something out of the ashes of this? And I think my conclusion was, and I think this is probably the most controversial thing I said, was we need to stop looking under rocks just to find some sort of redemption. It's like sometimes you need to let tragedies be tragedies and then let God work through those tragedies. God, working all things for the good of, those who love God and stuff like that, but not just being like, well, we got to find redemption somewhere. Because at the end of the day, I think trying to redeem stuff that's not meant to be redeemed is kind of the whole point. That's what God does. That's not what we do.
Yeah, I think that's a byproduct of human nature, though, is because we want to redeem every situation, and some situations aren't redeemable, and they have to just die. It's the whole mustard seed thing. So I think there's a time where you let something die and put it out to God's glory, and then move forward. If you would. So I think that's a big thing that I wouldn't. I would definitely say. So you say so. Do you know other people that you've talked to or something like that come from different background or something like that? Or did you listen to Marcel?
Oh yeah, I grew up. I didn't grow up, but I remember I was Driscoll exploded when I was in undergrad. Everyone, it was Piper and Driscoll and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not conflating the two, obviously.
Sure.
But those, that's how I found him out, and I kind of kept tabs on that because even if I bought a lot of what he said, I never bought how he talked about women and sex. That always really bothered me. Kind of stuff.
so
Did you
Nick
feel like
and I remember us getting into a fight one day over Driscoll because I bought into Driscoll back when I was 18 years old, 19 years old, however old we were. And I remember Nick and I going at it one day about him. Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah, you have to when you feel like you have to defend your heroes, you have to always react and go, why are they my hero? And why are these guys just men? I mean, come on, that's one thing. So Nick, I'm going to take this apart a little bit for you. Or just ask you questions on it.
Go away, dude. This is all just candid conversation. Go for it.
What was it in his comments to sexuality and human sexuality? What were the things you had issues with?
How he conceived of the sex act and all that sort of stuff. How he conceived of basically the male centeredness of sex. Real marriage and all that sort of stuff. I disagreed with the emphasis he put on there. Obviously, I think that marriage should be about mutuality, not basically power. Of course, as a guy, I do enjoy sex and all that sort of stuff. But
Sure.
I never bought into the idea of kind of this presenting men's desires as kind of the guiding impulse for the marriage. And I think he did that, and I don't think that's necessarily endemic to people that I disagree with. But it's more endemic to, it revealed to me that, I'll coin a term here, the pornification of the Christian mind. Where you have kind of that sort of thing as kind of bedrock and assumptions. And that was something I never liked because it basically affirmed everything I wanted as a young man, but I knew Scripture didn't really seem to teach. And so that's why I always had an issue with him on that sort of front.
the reason I never really had an issue with that was I see that the male sex drive is much stronger than the female sex drive. I mean, both biblically and scientifically, if you would. And I never really thought about it as a degradation of women. I always thought about it as, he's saying things that guys think about that nobody would ever be a champion of necessarily. But in hindsight, obviously, it's always 20. I could definitely see those issues in particular that you're bringing up, and so on and so forth. And then several friends of mine that brought up, and I guess early on I thought I was getting asked questions continually. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about how he talks about sex? And I don't understand what the problem is. And like a dumb jock. I guess what my kids call me sometimes. I just like, look, who doesn't want to have sex more? Let's just be honest about it. Yeah. They're like, hey, but Dad, you understand how this is degrading? My son was one of the big factors. Me taking a hard look at that. Which kids.
Brad, you're coming in kind of muted. Is there a way to move the camera forward or do something with that?
Me?
Yeah, you're coming in really kind of, the volume's a little low.
I think I can do this, and it's a little bit better. Yeah,
that's a lot better. Yeah, perfect.
I have my iPhone. Let's try. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Let's try this. I guess I can probably put this. Can you hear me okay?
Coming through crystal clean. That's a lot better. Thank you.
You still hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, the volume. Justin stopped by and was like, hey, what do I need to do? So he's the Apple guy. But I think it's a great point, in particular, that needs to be said and talked about more. And if anything, I think God could use what Driscoll said for people to just converse more about, Christian sexuality. Because if you come from, I became a Christian when I was 15 years old. So the true love waits thing was all in full effect. And I remember that being, sex was kind of looked at as a bad thing, a thing to wait for, and which I agree with as far as a thing to wait for, until monogamous marriage. But the bigger issue was, you had somebody talking about it that at times I guess would be a little crass, if you would. But at least he was bringing attention to it in a way that Josh, McDowell and True Love Waits and other guys like that didn't, and that's one of the things I appreciated about him.
Well, and it's one of those, and Stu, I want to hear your thoughts. I think the issue I had was he was tackling a very real problem with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. And so it's one of those where I was like, okay, I can see, men's sex drives and all, like he's speaking the right, he's addressing a very real problem, fatherlessness or young menisms and all that sort of stuff. But I think what it turned out to be, and I'm speaking not at the beginning because, sometimes things start good, have good intentions and just go off the rails. I'm willing to grant that because we're all human. But one of those things I noticed very early on was, this sounds like this sort of stuff that appeals to young men because it's giving young men exactly what they want. They want to hear that they have a position of power or sovereignty in sex, that sex is about them, that they are these sorts of things. And I think that really runs the risk of not, and that's not to say male sex drive is not what it is or anything like that, but it is to say there needs to be a sense of understanding of the reason why you want to feel this way and that you're not using someone basically to satisfy your own needs. Sex, of course, is much more holistic than that.
I guess I'd push back in the sense of like, I didn't see that as much as I saw, because of his demeanor and because of his, or whatever, Mark is, that became an added complication to the message because of who he was. I didn't hear that coming apart because there's been several times that I appreciate what he said about sexuality and serving each other in particular, in the sex act, in the act of marriage. I think that's paramount, to any longevity in your sex life. I'm married 26 years, and when getting the idea of how can I serve my wife, how can I love her, and and things like that are very important, even sexually speaking. So I think maybe that was misconstrued because of the machismo he might have. And keep in mind, I don't know Mark. We're not friends. We don't have any kind of conversations ever. But I think a lot of times he's misconstrued because of his brashness or his willingness to talk about issues and subjects that are very, very controversial in the Christian realm. He does it with such clarity of a biblical prowess that he knows, or that on a theological leaning that he has, that seems undebatable to some people, if you will. But that's what I would say.
What do you think, Stu?
Sorry, I'm dealing with something on my payroll, so.
Oh, fine. Anyway, so what I'm enjoying today, y'all. Welcome to Holy Smokes. We jump right into it here. I am enjoying the Liga Midnight Toro.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's dark and spicy. It's kind of like my theology. A little dark, a little spicy.
I'm smoking the Covenant. I'm going to go with the Covenant by Esteban Carrera, which is a dark Toro. It's a nice cigar. I've had a very long time, and I found one in my humidor, and I was like, you know what? Justin was encouraging me. He had one the other day, so we'll probably end up bringing them in. It's a very, very good cigar. It's dark Oscuro. Very smooth, very sweet, very very complex Maduro, if you would. But Oscuro Maduro is the darkest Maduro you can get, pretty much. Which I believe that Liga Midnight actually has an Oscuro wrapper. But so that's what. So what? Let me ask you this: what is God currently teaching you? What are some things on your heart? What's some things taking you through, Nick and Stu, that you can share with us?
Go for it, Stu. I've already been talking a bunch. It's your turn. And by the way, yeah, since Stu's not smoking, Stu has to do more talking, so Brad and I keep these things lit.
Okay. So with me, man, it's a lot of it is patience, and just pushing through. So I'm still up in North Carolina with my mom. I've been here since the beginning of November. I'll be here at least until middle of May. And it's just kind of a lot of small things that have to happen and pushing through. But some of the cool things are, we're seeing as these things, that arise when you lose a spouse, and a grandmother, we're seeing these problems that have come up, and we're seeing how God is one by one resolving them. And there were even some things that came up. I can't go into a lot of detail on them, but there were some things that came up from even when my dad died, 13 years ago, Nick, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So, stuff that had come up from then that kind of resurfaced through all this stuff. And just seeing how God's used that to provide, and how God has just kind of stepped in during these times. And he's definitely teaching me patience, because, my mom and stepdad, they're at a small Southern Baptist church, and I am very much not a small Southern Baptist church kind of guy. So, just throwing some patience there, and, reminding myself, these are people who are trying to serve, and they're trying to love on me and my mom, and sometimes it drives me up a wall, but those are the people that God's provided, and just learning to be thankful,
That's cool, Stu. That's really good.
It's a good word.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you're younger and you're all of a sudden having to deal with tragedy with your parents and grandparents and so on and so forth. And I'm not. I'll just say this. I mean, I'm not going to make it. It's going to sound trite. I mean, obviously, sorry for your loss, but God's also made you for such a time as this. To minister to your family and everything else like that. Which, again, can sound trite, but I'm glad you're one of the good guys there, Stu, in particular. For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at it, kind of just my situation. I have a job that lets me work anywhere in the country. As long as I have internet access, I can do my job. I'm also, of the 4 children, I'm the one that does not have any kids and is not married and is not tied down to a location. and I look at how just, it all kind of picked up and worked out in that situation, So it's been a good thing.
Where are you in your kids? Are you the oldest, the youngest, the middle?
I am the youngest. So
Okay.
It goes.
No, you're not. You're not the youngest.
I am.
I've known you for like 15 years. You are not the youngest kid.
I am the baby.
With that silver mane.
Yeah, I know, right? So it goes. It's my stepbrother, then my sister, then my stepsister, then me.
Okay.
So
before you up and do that, man, that's a huge thing. That's usually it falls on the oldest, obviously. But that's a thing to step up and do that, man. And like you said, I mean, you're right. Life has afforded you to be able to do that right now, but the blessings that you're being to your mom and your rest of your family is a huge thing. It just is. So kudos, bro.
And
good stuff.
And I am absolutely happy to be here. I told my mom, she's like, you can go back. You don't have to stay up here, and you don't have to help. I'm like, yeah, if I go back, I'm just going to worry myself sick about you.
Right. So, yeah, if you leave your mom up in North Carolina that far from Braves baseball, boy, you're bad, son.
Oh, it's not the Braves she cares about, man. It's the dogs.
Don't lie. We all know she's now secretly jumping around about the Battery, going Truist Park.
I'm just glad Bama fell. I was thinking about you, Stu. I was so glad Bama fell and the dogs took care of business. So I am, man. I really am. So kudos to you. I was glad
it was good.
I was glad that they beat the guys that beat Cincinnati.
And so, Stu, I resonate a lot with what you said about patience, losing or not being a pastor anymore and going through that whole thing. Certainly teaches it very quickly that the Lord moves at the Lord's pace, and that is never as fast as you want it, and sometimes it's far faster than you could ever dream. And so got a few interviews, got a few things coming up, some part-time things, but seems like a really nice church, seems pretty low key. Get to work with students, college students, maybe even in where Stu and I went to undergrad. And so we'll see. The Lord, that's the thing. We prayed for the Lord to. I use the language of kick open the door or slam the door shut in my face. I'm done walking down the hallway going like, is that a door open? Is that this? It's like, no, just slam the door in my face so I can move on. And the Lord, and in the Lord's wisdom and the Lord's sense of humor, the Lord was like, you know what? Screw this, slam. And I'm like, well, okay, that's, I guess you get what you pray for sometimes. But just thinking about patience, thinking about reflection, thinking about the future, but also thinking about trying to have that kind of, and it sounds trite, that God-centeredness that, you gave me these gifts, you gave me these things, you gave me this wife, this little boy, these friends. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? If it means working at McDonald's, making hamburgers, or at least overseeing the machines that make our hamburgers, that's like, then so be it, But it's trying to, I think for me, it's just trying to have that kind of God-centeredness, not in the sense of personal holiness, although as a Wesleyan I'm big on personal holiness, but on the idea of cultivating that mind of the Spirit, the mind of Christ, and trying to kind of think about that and live into that.
So I'd die for you as a college pastor. I would love that. I was a college pastor for 5 years.
I'd have you do it too, because I'm not going to go, yeah, you're going to die for me? Let's go rob a bank. Let's go.
I'm good with that. Yeah, and I think something that you can bring, bro, to the table for college students that, they're hungry for the word, they're hungry for guys that know theology, that wrestle, struggle, and are authentic about their theology. I think that's one of the things I think are missing today is that when you got everything figured out, you're just not authentic. You're just not,
or just a snob. At that point, you just turn into an elitist snob. Like, oh yes, I figured this out 15 years ago. It's like, really? You? Cool.
Yeah, I'm still a Doug Wilson fan, so cut me some slack on that. So there's guys that, when they're Gandalf, you can see they're right, and or Dumbledore. I've been watching Harry Potter recently with my kids because I've never watched it, so cut me some slack on the illustrations.
I'll give you a little grace there. You put cream in your coffee, so do I. We're all good, bro.
Thank God. Justin doesn't. That's a whole other prayer request for another day.
Well, he thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't. That's a problem.
You hear that? But I think, having a humble orthodoxy, as you're going through life, is important while keeping the core truths. Things that are debatable, and things that aren't. And I think that's one of the hard things about being a Christian is there's things that were never debatable in mind that are debatable today, particularly as you grow. And I to quote John Piper, I guess I saw him at a conference one time, seen him at several conferences, but to hear him say, the older I get, the less I know, I'm like, what? I thought that was just the opposite of what's supposed to go on. I would say the older you get, the more you think you know, versus how God reveals himself to you and kicks you off your pedestal, and makes people and places and experiences so much more vivid, real, and demonstrative in your life for what he's doing at that particular time, which I think is exciting for you, man, because I think that's, not to sound trite or down some trite. When God has something up his sleeve and it's right around the corner, we always think, oh gosh, this is it's the darkest it's ever been. It's always darkest for the light, and when that comes around, you're just pretty excited about what God's doing at that point. So
you got to go through the storm. You got to go through the storm, man.
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, not better than anybody else, I think, in this particular point, but I also think that God's got a really cool plan for you and what he's going to do, and I'm just happy to be part of the stuff that's in it. So I actually have a guy sitting right here next to me. Travis, come here. So speaking of a guy who was not only a mentor of mine, but a good guy to smoke cigars with. It's interesting he just came in. So this is my mentor. This is Travis. Sorry, see him? Hey.
Yeah, I can see it. What's good, Travis?
How are you?
Good, man.
This is Nick Quient. Nick does a podcast called Holy Smokes.
Oh, nice.
We smoke cigars, talk about God,
talk about
theology.
Jesus. I like that. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna do that.
Well, that comes down to the big question I wanted to ask all of us and talk about. And I want to get y'all's thoughts on this because I got coming from kind of a Calvary Chapel background and all that, Brad, kind of my background. Stu, obviously, you were there with me from the beginning. Cigars, alcohol, movies, dancing, none of that's kosher where I come from. God bless where I come from, not kosher where I come from. And something I wanted to ask all of us to kind of meditate on as kind of the thing we talk about. Doesn't have to be the only thing, but the big thing we talk about is why we smoke, why we enjoy the good things of God to the glory of God. And so I can imagine comments being like, enjoying this, sinful, sinful, sinful. And I'm like, well, let's talk about enjoying the good things of God to the glory of God. So let's talk about why we smoke and why we enjoy the good things of God. So I just wanted to toss that little bomb out there for all of us to kind of talk about.
So,
wow.
Go ahead.
I got to light something.
Travis, I'm going to get Travis.
Well, just for everyone's, go ahead and do that, Brad. I'll hunker down here. But Brad owns a really awesome little cigar joint, Zeal Cigars, up on Cave Creek Road. I know because I have it marked. That's where I got this one, a house blend. Owns a cigar place. Stu, you're the one that kind of inspired me to get back into cigars because I saw you smoking. I'm like, boy, I need something to take the edge off. So there's I think it's just a fun question to think about. It's like why we enjoy the good things of God to the glory of God.
You stopped smoking cigars because you had a newborn and you were with him, all day, every day. So it was a good reason to stop smoking for the time being, but he can take care of himself now. My
favorite experience, I was smoking a cigar. I think it was like midnight, and he was like 3 months old, and I'm smoking. I'm enjoying. I can't remember what. I know what it was. It was a, I think the primordial. No, what's it called, Brad? The vanilla ice cream, spice cream. I was enjoying a spice cream. I was enjoying spice cream, and I'm sitting out here. I'm loving it. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm meditating and all that. Then I hear the and I'm like, naughty word, naughty word, naughty word. All right, let's go. And so I go in. I put my cigar down. I go in and I pick him up. And for those who don't know, my kid is super expressive, super wonderful. Just, I wouldn't even die for my kid. I'd kill for my kid. Like, that's kind of where it is. As a pacifist, that's a lot to say. I would kill for my kid. That's true love. So I go in and I took off my jacket because I wore a jacket and all that sort of stuff. I go grab him, pick him up, and he, I'm him. He kind of nuzzles up and he's like, oh, I'm so happy. And he goes,
yeah.
I just was not feeling it, but then he kind of realized, oh, okay, and nuzzled back in. I'm like, He's gonna be a cigar. I'll have to get him one when he's 16. I'll have to go to Zeal Cigars and hang out with Brad.
12. Uncle Stu's gonna get it for him when he's 12.
Don't tell Mrs. Quint.
Yeah,
Hey, look, I already get blamed for things I've never even done by her, so.
Well, you know you would have done them, so that's just how that works.
That's true.
California.
Oh.
So Travis just asked me about you. I was telling him a little about you, Quint. You know, I think that's one of the cool things. I mean, you're yeah. So you're close to being a college pastor then, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking about? And
I mean, it's one of those things, just applying around, getting interviews, trying to figure out what's going on, and we'll be moving next month, so mid next month, down into kind of Long Beach area in Orange County, kind of in that area, and just settling there and just trying to figure out what the next move is. If my wife gets a job that's remote, then maybe we move to Phoenix or Texas or someplace, just get out of. I don't know if Travis knows, we're in California, so not to tell you what my politics are, but it'd be certainly very nice to be in Phoenix or Dallas or Tampa or someplace. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, just looking in the area, see if there's anything, and seeing if God's got anything that, no, this is part of the plan or that's not part of the plan. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
So,
does he have a cigar shop too? Or?
No.
Oh.
He's a
Connoisseur.
He's a YouTuber, yeah, connoisseur. So Travis is a mentor of mine and actually a chaplain at a local Christian college here. It's got a big football team and everything, and great guy. So talk about wisdom. A guy that has wisdom and guys that is walked the road that many of us have walked so and so forth. Give us advice on waiting on God's timing for work and jobs. Give us that kind of stuff.
I think just discovering contentment as a man is part of the curse. You're going to have weeds. At what point have you ever made enough money?
Yeah,
never.
Yeah.
Right. So as you start realizing our bucket.
What's money? I'm a pastor. Unless you're Joel Osteen, what's money?
Yeah, that's a whole nother road. The pastor road is a whole nother conundrum because we're already in full-time ministry. The question is, do we want to get paid to be a Christian, which is a whole nother conversation about the church in the 21st century America, which I've become a bit of a cynic, and we could talk about that if you want to. But I love the church. Don't get me wrong. I love the church, even the small C. I love the big C better than the small C because that's where Jesus people want to hang out. I think discovering contentment is hard fought as a man. I think discovering that I need to feel fulfilled when I'm at home on my knees playing with my kids as I am putting together a real estate deal or putting the next widget together or conquering the next mountain, because there is no hill without a valley, and so every hill you get to, you got to go to the other side anyway. So we want to get to the top of the hill, and then we realize, this is I'm not fulfilled no matter what you do. And I remember realizing, okay, at the end of the day, I need to enjoy my real calling, which is always going to be as a husband and a father. The work stuff comes and goes. And the more I discovered that I let God bring it to me rather than me scratching and clawing for it, that he would actually bring me things that were pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing, greater than I could hope or dream. You
want to know the funny thing, Travis? Not to cut you off. The funny thing, if you talk to my mother, which you should be so lucky to do because she's wonderful. If you talk to my mother, she would tell you, and my wife will confirm this, I've used this phrase dozens of times in the past 5 or 6 years. I don't want to be a pastor. And then I ended up being one for 3.5, 4 years. So it's one of those where I was like, boy, I got frickin' egg on my face from that one. Thanks, God.
Hold on. So on that note, I remember when Nick
Stu and I went to undergrad together. For those who don't know, Stu and I went to undergrad together. We're both film majors at Biola.
Yeah, we used our degrees clearly. So Nick, I remember when he first told me he was going to be a pastor at this church and everything, I just looked at him and go, why? Is that something you want to do? And he looks at me and goes, no, but it pays good money. I go, okay. And here we are now.
Well, and it's one of those things. It's like, well, it's a paycheck, but also I think it'd be fulfilling. I think it'd do all these things. Then once it started, I was like, oh, there are levels to this thing that I never thought about. And the thing that I loved most, the thing that made every day worth it was not only preaching the word occasionally, but going and visiting people. Our congregation was largely older folks, so a lot of visitation, a lot of hospital visits. And honestly, the moments of joy that I keep with me, aside from my son being born and all that sort of stuff, is going to see people who are sick or infirmed and just hearing how the Lord's working with them and allowing them to speak into my life without me ever saying a word. And that's the thing I noticed as a pastor was shut your frickin' mouth and let them talk, and you'll learn so much more. Like we went through, my wife and I, and this is not to get too personal, but we went through a really terrible experience, as a married couple. Not to, and I'll save that for when we're not recording. But we went through an experience that changed our lives very dramatically. And as I was driving one of our older folks home from a regional meeting out here, he basically started talking about his wife going through the same thing. And he's 80 or 90, and he's since passed on into glory. But he straight up talked exactly about the same thing we went through without me saying anything. No one knew about it. Maybe 10 people on the whole planet knew about it. And I'm sitting there going like, that's as close to a God moment as I've ever had in my life. Like, that drive home was so terrifying because I'm like, what else is the Lord going to say to me through this saint? And I think it's one of those things, you can pursue these things and all that, but the Lord will usually use those things to be like, it's not really about that. And the trick is, I think, is to be reflective and repentant and observant of the things that the Lord teaches, usually when they're gone. And that's the blessing of history and the blessing of time.
There you go. Oh, excellent. That'll preach. Should we take an offering now? Thank you.
You can make it out to at Nick Quient at
That was good though. I your words, shut up and listen, I think those are actually right from the Holy Spirit.
Oh yeah.
I would tell you that right now.
Well, I'm just quoting what the Spirit said, and that's what Paul basically said to people: shut up and listen, Corinthians. I got something to tell you.
And that means listen to my wife, listen to my kids, listen to the Spirit around me. Be slow to speak, quick to listen. So you're right on, brother. If nothing else, the pastorate is an education. So you get and it's not a minor education; it's a major education, and it really does teach you a lot about people and the pursuit of things and money. And it's difficult because I don't know about you, but I was idealistic when I started out in ministry 37 years ago.
I was 38, but yeah.
Yeah. And so very idealistic. The school's always in session, and that's the beautiful part. And not growing cynical has become probably the thing I have to really be careful of now, because I could be cynical, but I don't want to be. I want to believe. I think we as men want to follow. We want to believe.
I'm not as scared as cynicism, if I'm honest. I'm scared of getting cold. You know what I mean? Getting cold to the things that happen, where you miss the things that the Spirit might be saying. Because I think at the end of the day, and Stu, you and I have talked about this before, is the idea of I'm waiting for a voice from God. It's like, you might wait a long time, because I've never heard God speak to me. And that's not to say I'm opposed to Pentecostalism or charismatic theology or anything like that. I believe in all that. But sometimes the Spirit will use the small, subtle, little things in ordinary life that'll shock you and surprise you. And Stu, I know you've gone through a bunch of that too. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, but that was something I noticed very quickly, is if you wait for God to in your ear, you're going to be waiting a long time, and maybe you'll hear something. I'm not saying God doesn't do that, but for me, that was never a thing. And so God had to use other people, other saints, or even whoever or whatever. If God can use a talking ass to make his point, he can certainly use me, or certainly use my friends, like Stu.
Yeah, and based on just listening to you for 5 minutes, you're never going to grow cold, because you hear his voice daily. And you're not looking for something audible. You're not looking for something that's it's supernatural. The supernatural is happening to you every day, and you're recognizing it. You see his fingerprints. You hear it in his word. You see it in his people. You're not a guy that's heart's going to grow cold. You may get hurt and disappointed along the way, like all of us, but you're not that guy.
Yeah,
I've seen that guy. I've met that guy.
Yeah,
that's not you.
Yeah, I have too. Like, I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see you doing that at all, bro. I mean, it's the person who worries about losing his salvation, right? Like, you're okay, bro. Yeah, you're okay.
I'm good. Yeah, I dropped it, and I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. I put it in my mouth, and all the ashes like, get in here. It's like, yes, oh. I feel like Skeletor right now.
What is it? What is it about cigars that become so bonding for dudes?
Because you're forced to spend an hour hanging out together. Once you light this, you're stuck together. And that's why last time, Stu and I, when I smoked, we're sitting there going like, once I light this up, my ass is rooted to this chair for an hour because I can't go inside. My wife ain't gonna let me go inside after that. God bless her.
Right.
And so I'm forced to hang out with Stu, which I mean, it's criminal how much fun we have hanging out together, Stu.
Yeah, I was at a lounge here in North Carolina on Tuesday, and I was talking with, it was me, the two owners, and some random dude, and we're talking about how we all kind of, and I mean, I've known these guys for all of 6-7 weeks, something like that, right? But how with cigars, you kind of get drawn to people who are just like you. We all had the same kind of palate. We all liked the same brands. We had our same go-tos. When politics would come up, we tended to have very similar beliefs. There may have been a couple of "Let's Go Brandon" shirts floating around. It's just like, that's one of those things that cigars do. It brings you towards people. But I've noticed it also does the opposite, where there'll be people who are the exact opposite and who try to come in and infiltrate those groups, and they never last long. They go to find someplace else.
Right.
I
think it's a real holy meeting too. Like I mean, there's whether we know it or not, when a believer is involved in that, I mean, there's a sanctification that goes on in those meetings where you're there blessing people and you don't even know that you are. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting with people that, aren't believers or what have you. And they're like, man, it's just something I love, about being here. Something I love about talking with you in your lounge and things like that. I'm like, well, if anything, I can tell you, it's probably Jesus, man. I mean, I got nothing good to give except for that, so and people go, wow, that's really cool. And I was really good. It's an opportunity just to share, the gospel and what Jesus has done in your life and what he could do in their lives if they let him in, kind of thing. So not to be trite or anything else like that, but those conversations I cherish, love, and have been transformed in my own heart from this. I just had a buddy come in this morning. We go to the same church, didn't even know it, because he's there at a different time, I guess. He was just Dave, T-shirt Dave.
No.
Yeah, Dave came in this morning.
He's been going.
Yeah, he's going to.
It's a good fit.
I go to a church called Desert City Church in Phoenix. Great little church. And just talking about what God's doing in our lives. And you're right. We lit up a cigar. And we had 45 to an hour that we spent, talking to each other. You have to at that point, about what's going on. And at that point, between brothers. Even if not brothers in Christ, there's still a brotherhood that's so unique that goes around cigars that can birth that, in ways that is super surprising and very exciting. I think cigars, and not to isolate the girls, but last time I checked, it was 98% guys that buy cigars. And brotherhood is something that is on the outs with a lot of people. We don't have a whole lot of brotherhood, around us, particularly if you're out of sports, and you're working in your career and so on and so forth. That's why we love coming here. Travis stops in all the time, and it's the biggest blessing for me when he does. I invite him in, like, here, Travis, come on, we're gonna do this, and so on and so forth. And he comes in when there's other guys in here, and you actually met my pastor. Yeah, we have church. We have church, right?
We have church. We show up, have a cigar. And I'll tell you a fun testimony. Even today, I was in the car, headed home. I got on the phone with my wife. I said, hey, you mind if I stop by at Zeal on my way home? And she goes, no, you haven't seen Bradley in a bit. Go for it. And she knows it. I said, okay, it's been an hour or so. She goes, she knows it.
So you don't even got to lie. You can just be like, well, now you got blessing to go hang out with your buddies and smoke cigars.
Yeah. Well, if you go home a better man and you clean up when you get there with Bradley's new soap, there you go.
That's a new
soap. So if you go home and clean up.
I just slather on the fireside marshmallow, and my wife just looks at me and goes, oh, you smell like a sexy ashtray. And she then punches me and tells me to go shower.
Did you get it, Nick?
No, it's one of those. I looked at it for Christmas. I'm like, losing my job. It's like, okay, I can't buy man perfume right now, but I can at least buy cigars.
Wait, hold on. What is this?
Stallion? Okay, no.
Not Stallion.
No.
Go to altfresh.com. Get there. It's called Fireside Marshmallow. It's the best smelling stuff. I'm going to tell you what, man. It's they copy all the main brands that are out there that cost like $700-800. It's like $49, and it's unbelievable. It smells like you would want to smell like after eating marshmallows around a campfire. It's amazing. My wife loves it. My daughter, I put some on, and we had her and Ethan over. We had my daughter's wedding in Travis's backyard, so that's important. Travis is us, obviously. And by the way, you were talking about Driscoll. Travis was at Driscoll's church as well, so he's got more stories than I'm gonna have to tell. But so case in point, I passed my wife, my daughter, and she goes, "Dad, what is that smell?" I'm like, "Oh, my cologne." And I was like, "Go ahead and smell." And she's like, "Dad, it smells so good. It smells like a marshmallow around a campfire." I'm like,
"See, Stu, you don't need to borrow Nolan for a day to go find you a wife. You just got to spritz, and there you go." I mean, I'm gonna charge you a lot more to take Nolan out for the day. I'll just guarantee it.
No, you're not. You're gonna pay me. It's called babysitting.
Are you kidding me? Have you seen my son? My son is like the world's greatest little kid. Are you kidding me? You're paying me to use my son to get yourself a wife. Shame on you.
I've got 3 nieces I can use. I was doing
but they ain't Nolan, and Nolan doesn't go, "Would you be my mommy?" Doesn't work when it comes from your the little girl. Doesn't work.
How old are your kids?
Nolan is almost 2. He was born on Pi Day, March 14th.
Wow, great age.
So I'm just saying.
You're just starting out, dude. I love it.
Getting there.
All I could say is enjoy. It goes faster than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, I'm already feeling that.
Life is a vapor. I 11-year-old, 5-year-old grandkids, and it's extraordinary, and that's going fast too.
Well, so Stu's got kids, I'm sure, somewhere. We just don't know where they are.
I haven't met him. If I do,
like, walk up and go, "Hi, kid," and the kiddo goes, "Go Dogs!" And you're like, "Well, that can't be mine."
Oh,
kid
walks up, "My name's Ugga," and you're going, "Yeah, that's probably my kid."
Yeah, listen. There are a lot of things in life that I am all for. I am not in a position to have children. Like, I am not mentally, spiritually. I know, just no.
Yeah, I do think that's God's design, though, is to humble us greatly when we have kids, and it sort of forces a maturity level that wouldn't happen naturally. That's what
my sister had a baby back in October, and I've already taught her to stick her tongue out every time she sees someone. And yeah, I'm that uncle. And and she lives in Texas, so this has been over like Zoom calls. And her dad rightly blames me on that. He goes, "She only does that because he taught her to do that somehow." And so
she gets married, that you can take credit for that somewhere along the line. You did get kicked out of school once or twice because of it, but you can get credit at the wedding, which is nice.
Yeah.
You got that.
Yeah, so that's kind of the whole hope, is to get credit for all of her bad behavior.
There you go.
I told my sister, I'm like, "Look, whatever you want to teach her, I will back you up. If you say she can't watch this, I won't let her watch it. But if you tell her she can't have a toy or an item that she wants, and she calls me, you best believe I'm buying it for her."
"Uncle Stu, can I have an AR-15? What'd your mom say?" "No." "All right, I'll send you an AR-15.
Yeah, everybody needs that uncle, though. You get a pass from time to time.
Yeah.
And you just hope you don't get a restraining order. That's the only thing,
Well, I'm 1,000 miles away from her, so
so it's all good. It's Zoom.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly, a lot of deniability.
Does Amazon sell guns?
Now, where are you at? We got one guy in California. Are you both in California?
He's in California. I live in Atlanta. I'm currently in North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Where in North Carolina?
Sanford. So I'm about 5 miles east of Fort Bragg's main gate.
Nice. Georgia, beautiful.
It is. Yeah. I'm just up here helping my mom for a little while.
Yeah. Nice.
But it's lovely. It's cold, but it's lovely.
What sort of work do you do?
I do sales development. Currently contracted to Google, but I do sales development for tech companies.
Wow.
So I do a lot of talking to companies about Google Cloud and various offerings through Google that we have.
Nice. The cloud. You own us. It's very
Yeah.
How does it feel to work for big tech?
Yeah.
I feel a lot more comfortable with Google having all of my information than I do with Amazon or Facebook. So
Interesting. So it's kind of like working for the empire, though, right? The evil empire.
yeah, but I mean, I am the guy who will sit here and adamantly defend the Empire.
Oh, okay.
You're my son. You're my son. My
Yeah,
son.
Luke Skywalker
Yeah, but
was a
Stu, you can't
terrorist.
do that because you're a Southerner, and Southerners never miss. How can you work for the Empire when all they do is shoot and miss stuff?
Dude, that's the Force protecting Luke.
That's why stormtroopers can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, it's the
They're all
Force.
Northerners.
They're Northerners.
Yeah, they're all Northerners.
I think Brad might be able to hit the broadside of a barn.
I'm not that shot. I'm not gonna lie. I have targets and I shoot all the time.
Brad is the broadside.
I
of
am
the
the
barn.
broadside. I am the broadside of the
Hey, me too.
What are you gonna do?
This is a very large
What are
human
you
being
gonna do?
over here.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So I was trying to use wide angle lens with Justin in the film, right? I get Justin.
No wonder Justin looks like a twig there. He's like, why do I look so small in these videos? No reason. Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Our other buddy just walked in, so give us anything to talk about for 5 minutes because we got to go after that.
Why cigars bring God glory?
First, said so.
It's the earth. We're in taking earth.
There we go.
There's
And all
something
the,
about a plant life.
all the pot guys are doing the same thing.
Oh,
So the
they're just eating it now. They're not even smoking.
I know
Those
they
lazy
are. They're
dudes.
lazy.
They don't get to enjoy it like we do, right? They don't even sit down and share anymore. They just
I think
have a gummy.
yeah, I think that how they bring God. I mean, I think you can bring God glory in almost anything by nature of the fact of how you use it. You know, if it's able to be, for God's glory, I think the conversation around it can be awesome. I think I don't know, cigar guys just tend to be cut from a different cloth, and so as a result of that, you find another guy that smokes cigars, all of a sudden you've got a kindred spirit there that can open up doors to so many other things. And so if there's a way that could bring God glory, I mean, I can tell you right now, my neighbor, I said a guy moved into to the right of us, and I plan on bringing him cigars to see if he wants to sit down for cigars and just get to know each other a little bit with our other neighbor. So I know that brings God glory just in and of itself. But guys want to do something as they talk. We don't want to sit down. We want to do something because we sit down. It's called counseling. But if we actually do it, if we do something together, like whether it's golf, I hate golf, or watch sports or eat wings or anything like that. That's something that we tend to do that, we can bring God glory from that by nature of the fact that we're doing something together.
It creates community.
Yeah, it creates community. Yeah.
And it's a great bridge. You talk to a guy, I had one guy today. It's like, hey, I use cigars. I love cigars. You got to come by Zeal, come and hang out, and it just becomes a great place to meet and get together. And I believe it creates an atmosphere where iron can sharpen iron, because that doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
Even when you're golfing, you're more in competition than you are if it's not with the guy you're playing with, it's with the stupid ball, which actually I love golf.
Unless you're eating wings, because that's competition for me.
Well, eating wings is competition for you. And you can't talk anyway because your mouth's full.
Correct.
But you can sit and talk. And even if you're watching a football game, you're not talking, you're bitching about what's going on.
Right. You could say
anyway,
that.
So I think it creates a community that's unusual, and God can be in the midst of it if we allow for him to have the space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I look at it, cigars are also often an outreach tool. I've got a buddy of mine, his girlfriend, when he was in college, his girlfriend tried to get him to go to church every week. He didn't want to. I don't want to go to church. He moves up to Atlanta, and I tell him, like, hey man, Thursday nights I've got church. After church, I go to the cigar lounge down the street. Why don't you come to church with me? They'll feed us at church, and then we'll go cigar lounge, have a smoke, and chill out. And he came for 3.5 years. I mean,
well, that's how
it's just.
My buddy of mine saw his car at men's group at church.
Aaron, come here.
And he's like, "Oh, we got a cigar guy at church, and he's right down the road."
And this is Aaron.
So next thing you know,
this is the reason we're all connected right here. Come over here behind us. This is our buddy Aaron. Say hi to everybody on YouTube. There you go. This is the luckiest guy in the entire world. Place a bet with him. Yeah. But that's how we got to know each other. I was in church and I had Zeal cigars on my truck, and then he comes in one day, and then Travis comes in the same day and says, "Hey, were you at Trinity?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so we ended up getting together and doing that.
So Mark Driscoll brought us together.
Yeah.
And he tried to rip us apart, but we won't allow it.
That's funny.
Some of us are still a part of the cult.
That's funny. So, hey guys, we do have to go. I got some. It's gonna work out.
Appreciate y'all taking the time. Y'all take care.
Yeah, love you to death. Man.
Likewise,
Seriously.
brothers. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe, stay sane, and I'll hit you up in a month or so for the next one.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Bye-bye.